Hello students, welcome to the session. I am CA Dhanush R. Gangwani, a faculty at Bangalore, Pondicherry and Chennai. I welcome you all to my channel which I have dedicated to the students of the CA course. This being my first video, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the Almighty for making me capable to do this. I would like to thank my parents, family and friends for their continuous love and support. I thank my mentors for guiding me. Last but not least, my lovely students who have been the main encouraging factor for me being able to do this. In this particular session, I would like to discuss mock test paper 1 for June 2021 exams, CA Foundation Accounts. Like you all know, the exam is for 100 marks. I hope you all have answered the paper assuming that you are in the exam hall. What do I mean by assuming that you are in the exam hall? Keeping a time limit of 3 hours, sitting in an exam environment. If you are yet to attempt the paper, I strongly suggest that you pause watching this video now, make a fair attempt to the paper, and then resume using this video to evaluate your answers. So let us get straight to it.
State with reasons whether the following statements are true or false. Most of the students answer true or false, but they forget to note that you have to also give a reason. State with reason whether it is true or false. First one, the balance in petty cash book represents an asset. True or false? True. Yes, sir. So coming to the answers, the balance represents the cash which is physically existing and therefore it is an asset. Yes, sir. So the first statement is true. Directly self-explanatory, cash balance physically existing with us, therefore an asset. Finished goods are normally valued at cost or market price, whichever is higher. Now, this statement is false. Why? Because as per accounting standard 2, finished goods are normally valued at cost or net realizable value, whichever is lower. It is not valued at cost or market price, whichever is higher, but it is valued at cost or net realizable value, whichever is lower. Subscriptions received for current year shall be shown in the balance sheet as a current asset. Now, where are we talking about subscriptions? Subscriptions is an income for your non-profit organizations. Is it a revenue income? Is it a revenue item or is it a capital item? Subscriptions are revenue items. So will you show it in the balance sheet? No. So this statement is false. Current year subscription shall be shown in the credit side of income and expenditure account and not in the balance sheet, as it is not a capital item, it is a revenue item. Therefore, this statement is false. Coming to the fourth one, when shares are forfeited, the share capital account is debited with called up capital of shares forfeited, and the share forfeiture account is credited with calls in arrears of shares forfeited. Now you need to remember the entry for share forfeiture, what is going to be debited, what is going to be credited. Of course, we know share capital will be debited, share forfeiture will be credited, but here they're also speaking about the amount. Share capital will be debited with called up capital. True. Share forfeiture is credited with calls in arrears. False. So this statement is false. When shares are forfeited, the share capital account is debited with called up capital. Up to there, the statement was true. But then share forfeiture account is credited with the amount received on shares forfeited. It is not the amount of calls in arrears, it is the amount received on the shares which have been forfeited. Therefore, statement number 4 is false. Coming to statement number 5, discount at the time of retirement of a bill is a gain for the drawee. What do you mean by retirement of a bill? Retirement of a bill means that the payment for the particular bill is happening before the maturity date. So you have the date of bill drawn, you have the term of the bill, and you have a maturity date. Before the maturity date itself, the person wants to pay for the bill, the drawee wants to pay for the amount of bill. Now, is this discount a gain for the drawee or is it a gain for the drawer? Coming to the answer, true. Discount given at the time of retirement of a bill is a gain for the drawee and a loss for the drawer, because the drawer is going to receive lesser amount. The drawee is making an early payment, so he will pay less income for the drawee. The drawer is going to receive less, therefore loss for the drawer. Gain for the drawee, loss for the drawer. Coming to the last statement, bills receivable and bills payable books are types of subsidiary books. Yes. What are the types of subsidiary books that we have? Purchase book, purchase return book, sales return book, cash book, bills receivable book, and bills payable book. So yes, they are types of subsidiary books, which is an alternate to journals. Subsidiary books as an alternate to journal entries. So remember, whenever you give straight true or false, do not just state true or false, also give a valid reason. Even if the statement is true, try to write something about it, not just the statement itself. You need to give a valid explanation for a true statement also. Now let us go to question 1b. Question 1b says, discuss the limitations which must be kept in mind while evaluating the financial statements. So what are the limitations of accounting, or what are the limitations while evaluating your financial statements? There are quite a few limitations. Let us look into the suggested answer. Now, here we have limitations which must be kept in mind while evaluating the financial statement are as follows. The factors which may be relevant in assessing the worth of an enterprise don't find place in accounts as they cannot be measured in terms of money. Only those items which are measured in terms of money are recorded. Items which cannot be measured in terms of money are not recorded. So this could be one of the limitation of accounting, or one of the limitations while you're evaluating your financial statements. Next, balance sheet is prepared on a particular day and it shows the data of a past date, but more investors are interested to know about what is going to happen in the future. But when you are preparing the balance sheet, you are preparing it as on a past date. So balance sheet shows the position of a business on the day of its preparation and not on future data, while users of accounts are more interested in knowing the position of the business in the near future and also in the long run, and not for a past date. So balance sheet or accounting gives us past data and not future data. Accounting ignores changes in money factors. So accounting is done on historical cost basis. Whatever is there in your financial statements are on historical cost, that is the cost at the time of acquisition, and you do not change the value in your books as and when the market price changes. So you are not considering changes in money factors. One of the limitations of accounting again. There are occasions when accounting principles conflict each other. Now, could you give me an example of accounting principles conflicting each other? Materiality concept says material items should be appropriately disclosed. Full disclosure says all items should be appropriately disclosed. So two principles conflicting each other. So this could be one of your limitation of accounting. Next, certain accounting estimates depends on the personal judgment of the accountant. Example again, useful life of the asset. I could say that the useful life is 10 years. Someone else could say that the useful life is 20 years. And now, because there is a personal judgment involved, your depreciation calculation changes. So personal judgment in estimates is a limitation of your accounting. Coming to the last point, different accounting policies exist for the same item, adding to the probability of manipulations. Example, valuation of inventory, you have so many methods: FIFO method, LIFO method, average method, weighted average method. Under depreciation, we have straight line method, written down value method, machine hour method, production unit method. So there are different accounting policies for the same item. Now, I might choose the policy which is going to give me benefit, or I might choose the policy depending on the manipulation intended. One of the limitations of accounting. Theory question could be answered. Coming to question number 1C, the following errors were committed by the accountant of Hariom Toys. So there are a few errors in the accounts. There are two errors given to us. How would you rectify the errors, assuming that they were detected before preparation of trial balance? They were detected after preparation of trial balance, but before preparing final accounts, the difference was taken into suspense account. They were detected after preparing the financial account, after preparing the financial statements. So there are three stages where you can detect and rectify your error. One is before trial balance, as given here. The second one after trial balance but before financial statements, and the third one is after financial statements or after final accounts. Okay, now they're asking us to rectify in all the three stages. If the same error has been identified in all the three stages, let us look into the error. What are the steps for rectifying? The first step, check what is the correct entry. Second step, see what has wrongly been accounted. And the third step, give the rectification. Okay, let us see the first error. Purchase of rupees 1,620 from Anupam and Co. passed through sales day book for rupees 1,260. There are two errors here. One, the transaction is a purchase from Anupam and they've recorded it in the sales day book. So they have recorded a purchase as a sale. Also, the amount of purchases is 1620, but they've recorded in the sale book as 1260. So both your account has been wrongly recorded and the amount has been wrongly recorded. Let me go to the suggested answer. Purchase of rupees 1620 wrongly recorded in the sales book as 1260. What are we going to do? Now, first we see the correct entry. The correct entry says purchase account data to Anupam account 1620. They have wrongly recorded in the sales book. So they would have recorded Anupam to sales 1260. I have told you whenever you get a question on rectification, try to analyze what has been over debit or under debit, over credit or under credit. Let me see. Purchase account should be debited with 1620 rupees. Has it been debited? No, sir. Purchase account is under debited. What about sales account? Sales account should not be recorded, but they have recorded a sale. They have credited the sales account. So can I say it is over credited? Yes, sir. Now, how do I rectify these accounts, sir? An under debit of 1620 rupees will be debited. An over credit of 1260 rupees will also be debited. And then what is happening to Anupam account? Anupam account should be credited with rupees 1620. They have not credited, so I'm saying it is under credited. Anupam account has been debited with 1260, so I'm saying it is over debited. Now to give the rectification, first I'm supposed to cancel this wrong effect of 1260 rupees and I'm supposed to record a credit of 1620 rupees. So therefore Anupam account will be credited with 1620 plus 1260, a total of 2880. First to cancel the wrong effect and then to record the right effect. Therefore, your rectification entry is going to be sales account debtor 1260, purchase account debtor 1620 to Anupam account 2880. Now, if I look into this entry, there is no suspense account involved. If there is no suspense account involved, can I say the same entry is going to continue even after trial balance? Yes, again, after trial balance as well, your entry for rectification is going to be sales account debtor, purchase account debtor to Anupam account, the similar amounts that we have recorded. What about after financial statements? After financial statements, for rectification of any error, we need to check if there are any nominal accounts in our rectification entry. What are nominal accounts? Entries or accounts pertaining to incomes and expenses are called as nominal accounts. So in our rectification entry, which are the nominal accounts here? Sales is a nominal account, purchase is a nominal account. So instead of sales and purchases, we will use profit and loss adjustment account. So here I will say profit and loss adjustment account debtor total of 2880 to Anupam account 2880. This rectifies our first error in all the three stages: before trial balance, after trial balance, and after financial statements. Okay, coming to the second error. Credit sale of rupees 1600 to Sony was posted to the credit of their account. Credit sale to Sony was posted to the credit of their account. Okay, what is the correct entry? Credit sale to Sony. Can I say Sony account debtor to sales? They have credited Sony's account. Sony is a debtor. Her account should have been debited, but they have credited her account. So can I say this is a one-sided error? Yes. Now, how are we going to rectify the error? This is a one-sided error. Sony account is credited instead of being debited. Amount posted to the wrong side, and therefore, while rectifying the account, double amount will be taken. Why do we take double amount? One to cancel the wrong effect and one to record the right effect. Okay, sir. So what is our entry? Before trial balance, one-sided error. You will not have a journal entry. Instead, you will have only a statement which you will be writing. Debit Sony's account with 3200, double the amount of the sales. Your sales was 1600, so double the amount, 3200 will be debited. Now, because this is a one-sided error, after trial balance, suspense account is going to exist. You credited Sony's account, that means you did not debit anything. Suspense account will be sitting as a debit balance. To rectify, I am supposed to credit suspense account. So the journal entry that I'm going to pass after trial balance is going to be Sony account debtor 3200 to suspense account 3200. Coming to after financial statements or after final accounts, you need to check if there are any nominal accounts in our rectification entry. Sony is a personal account, suspense account unknown. We do not know the nature of suspense account because it is an error. If we knew the error, we would have not made the error. Suspense account means unknown. So the nature of suspense account is always unknown. Sony account, like I said, it's a personal account. There are no any nominal accounts. So again, after financial statements, you will say Sony account at R 3200 to suspense account 3200. So this was our question number 1. Quite a simple question, compulsory question, but yeah, quite a simple question. You could solve it. Now, coming to question number 2. MSJP Wires Co. purchased a second-hand machinery on 1st January 2017 for rupees 3,20,000. Overhauling and erection charges amounted to rupees 80,000. Another machine was purchased for rupees 1,60,000 on 1st July 2017. On 1st July 2019, the machinery installed on 1st January 2017 was sold for rupees 1,60,000. Another machine amounting to rupees 60,000 was purchased and installed on 30th September 2019. Under the existing practice, the company provides depreciation at 20% per annum on original cost. However, from the year 2020, it decided to adopt WDV method and to charge depreciation at 15% per annum. You are required to prepare machinery account for the years 2017 to 2020. So they have a machine, they have a second machine, then they have a third machine after selling your first machine, and they're asking you to prepare machinery account for all the years. One more point of thing to be noted is first they were following straight line method, 20% on original cost. That means your straight line method, and then from the year 2020, it wants to adopt WDV method. So there is a change of depreciation method. What are we going to do in the answer? Let us look into the answer now. So we have in the books of MSJP Wires Co. machinery account, you have a debit side, you have a credit side. The first transaction takes place on 1st January where we are purchasing the machine. They purchased a second-hand machine on 1st January for rupees 3,20,000 and they paid overhauling and erection charges amounting to rupees 80,000. Now, overhauling and erection charges will be added to the cost of the asset. Why? Because it is incurred to bring the asset to the location, condition of use. Therefore, 80,000 will be added to the cost of the asset. And on 1st January, I'm supposed to debit machinery account with 3,20,000 plus 80,000. So 4 lakh will be debited. I'm going to say 1st January to bank account 3,20,000. This is your purchase of machinery, and then you have two bank account, you have installation and erection charges. Yes sir, 80,000 total debit of 4 lakh rupees in your machinery account on 1st January. Okay, going ahead, in the year 2017 another machine was purchased for rupees 1,60,000. So on 1st July I'm going to record two bank account 1,60,000. Now, there are two machines, one purchased on 1st January and one purchased on 1st July. At the end of the year, I'm supposed to provide depreciation for these two machines. Can you calculate the depreciation? For machine number 1, how much is it going to be? 4 lakh worth of machine has been used for the entire year. For machine number 2, 1,60,000 worth of machine has been used only from July onwards. Now, the method of depreciation to be followed is 20% on original cost. So I'm going to calculate for the first machine 4 lakh into 20%, which comes up to 80,000. For machine number 1, I'm giving your calculations on the top over there. For machine number 1, it is 4 lakh into 20%, which is equal to 80,000. And for machine number 2, it is 1,60,000 into 20% into 6 by 12. The financial year is January to December, so we will have 6 months, coming up to 16,000, and your total depreciation coming up to 96,000 for the year 2017. Depreciation will be credited in your machinery account, and we have the balance carried down 4 lakh plus 1,60,000 minus 96,000 equal to 4,64,000. Okay, now let us go to the second machine, or the second year rather. In 2018, first I need to bring down my opening balance. So 4,64,000 comes down as your opening balance in the year 2018. In the year 2018, there are no any transactions. So therefore, I'm going to the end of the year and recording depreciation. Depreciation for machine number one, 80,000 rupees. How, sir? 4 lakh into 20% for the full year. Machine number two, 32,000. How, sir? 1,60,000 into 20%. Sir, in the first year we did 6 by 12 because in the first year it was purchased in the middle of the year. But in 2018, you have used the machine for the full year, so you will provide full year depreciation. So 80,000 plus 32,000 comes up to 1,12,000, and my balance carried down in year 2018 is 4,64,000 minus 1,12,000, coming up to 3,52,000. Now I come to 2019. In 2019, there is sale of fixed asset. They say on 1st July 2019, the machinery installed on 1st January was sold for 1,60,000. So whenever there is sale of machinery, you need to calculate a few things. First thing, depreciation will be provided up to the date of sale. Second, you need to calculate your profit or loss on sale of the fixed asset. Okay, to calculate profit or loss, what are we supposed to see? We are supposed to see the historical cost of the asset, depreciation up to the date of sale, and whatever is the written down value or whatever is the book value of the asset, you compare it to your selling price. Okay, for this, let us make a working note. Now I come down to the working note. Book value of machinery on straight line method for machine 1 and machine 2, they have calculated. They've given you the cost of machinery 4 lakh rupees and machine 2 1,60,000. First, let us see machine 1 because we are selling machine 1 only. Depreciation for 2017, 80,000, 4 lakh into 20%. The written down value 3,20,000. Depreciation for 2018, again on original cost 4 lakh into 20%, coming up to 80,000. So 2,40,000 is the written down value. Now depreciation for 2019 for machine 1 is going to be only for 6 months. Why? Because the machine was sold. On what date? The machine was sold on 1st July 2019. Therefore, you are going to give only 6 months depreciation, and your depreciation is going to be 40,000 rupees. Now, what is the written down value of the machine? It is going to be 2 lakh rupees. Now, this 2 lakh rupees I'm going to compare with the selling price. The machine was sold for rupees 1,60,000. The book value of the machine is 2 lakh rupees. It was sold for rupees 1,60,000. Therefore, you have a loss on sale of 40,000 rupees. Your loss on sale will be debited. Your sale proceeds 1,60,000 will be debited in the bank account, and then your written down value of the machine is going to be credited. Let me go to the machinery account. In the year 2019, coming to all the transactions to be recorded one by one. First, I bring down my opening balance, which was nothing but last year's closing balance, 3,52,000 brought down as my opening balance. Next, I'm going to sell the asset on 1st July 2019. I have by bank account, like I told you, the sale proceeds of 1,60,000. I have by profit and loss account, or you could use by loss on sale of fixed asset account. By loss on sale of fixed asset account, which will be ultimately transferred to profit and loss account. So the amount of loss, which is 40,000 as per the working note calculated. And then you're going to give depreciation. They've not given me the date here. So I'm giving the depreciation on 31st 12 2019 itself. Okay, so by depreciation, what is the depreciation on the first machine? 40,000. Then we go ahead to calculate the depreciation for the second machine. But before that, before 31st December, we have purchased another machine. If we see, another machine was purchased for rupees 60,000 and was installed on 30th September. So 30th September, they are installing this machine. So I will say on 30th September, to bank account 60,000 rupees. This is my third machine which has been purchased. Now, if I need to calculate depreciation on the third machine in the year 2019, which method am I following? Straight line method, 20%. So can I say for the third machine, it is going to be 60,000. For this third machine, it is going to be 60,000 into 20% into time period 30th September, October, November, December. So into 3 by 12. 60,000 into 20% into 3 by 12 comes to 3,000. Your depreciation for machine 2 for the full year is 32,000 rupees, which was original cost 1,60,000 into 20%. Your total depreciation for the year 40,000 plus 32,000 plus 3,000 comes to 75,000, and your balance carried down is 3,52,000 plus 60,000 minus 160 minus 40 minus 75,000 coming up to 1,37,000. Now, alternatively, what could be done here in your presentation? Some things could have changed. Your depreciation for machine 1 could be provided on 1719 itself. On 1719, if I provide by depreciation 40,000, then your depreciation on 31st December would be 35,000. Alternatively, you could provide a total depreciation of 75,000 on 31st December. Both the methods are giving the same depreciation, only your date of accounting the depreciation is different. Depreciation ultimately goes to your profit and loss account, so no problem on whichever method of presentation you have given. Okay. Now, what is happening further? They say in 2020, it decided to adopt WDV method of depreciation. So if I'm adopting WDV method, I need to check what is the written down value or the book value of each machinery. So there again, our working note would be helpful. Now, like I calculated for machine 1, in the same way I'm calculating for machine 2. Machine 2, the cost of the machine in 2017 was rupees 1,60,000. Depreciation in year 2017 was for 6 months because we purchased the machine in the middle of the year. So 16,000 in 2017, 32,000 in 2018, 32,000 in 2019, giving a written down value of 80,000 rupees for machine 2. Machine 3 was purchased in 2019 and it had a depreciation of 3,000 rupees for your 3 months. Therefore, the written down value is 57,000. Now, I will be giving depreciation in 2020 on these two written down values. So I will say 80,000 plus 57,000 into 0.2, which is coming up to 27,400. How is it 27,400? 80,000 into, no, how much is my rate of depreciation? I don't think it is 0.2. It is 15%. So I'm sorry, it is not 27,400. Your depreciation is 15%. So 80,000 into 0.15 is coming up to 12,000 plus 57,000 into 0.15 coming up to 8,550. Your total depreciation coming up to 20,550. Now this is the depreciation in year 2020. So in year 2020, I say by depreciation on 31st December, 20,550, which is 12,000 and 8,550, 15% of your book value as on 2020. And then 1,37,000 minus 20,550 gives you the balance carried down of 1,16,450 on 31st December. Since they've asked us to prepare machinery account for 4 years or up to 2020, I'm preparing it up to 2020. Again, simple calculation points to be kept in mind. Depreciation will be provided from the year purchased or from the date of purchase up to the date of sale. Profit or loss on sale of machinery will be recorded. Installation and any expense incurred to bring the asset to the location condition of use will be added to the asset. If there are any repairs will not be added to the asset. These were few points to be kept in mind for this particular question. Okay. Coming to question 2B. Universe Limited keeps no stock records, but a physical inventory of stock is made at the end of each quarter and the valuation is taken at cost. The company's year ends on 31st March 2021 and their accounts have been prepared on that date. The stock valuation taken on 31st March 2021 was, however, misleading, and you have been advised to value the closing stock as on 31st March 2021 with the stock figure as on 31st December 2020, and some other information is available to you. So now, what is their date of financial statements? The date of financial statements is the end of the year, which is 31st March 2021. And their date of valuation of physical inventory or the date of physical verification of inventory is 31st December 2020. So can I say in physical verification is happening before the valuation date? Yes. If physical verification is happening before the valuation date, generally what do? We add our purchases, we deduct cost of sales, and then we have plus or minus other adjustments depending on whatever other information is available to you. But your purchases will be added and your cost of sales will be deducted. Please remember, do not directly deduct the sales figure. Your selling price has to be converted to cost price, and then the cost of sales has to be deducted to arrive at your closing stock. Okay, let me see the other information available with me. The cost of stock as on 31st December 2020, as shown by the inventory sheet, was rupees 2,40,000. Okay. As per your inventory verification, the stock on 31st December is 2,40,000 rupees. On second point, on 31st December, stock sheet showed the following discrepancies. A page total of 15,000 had been carried to the summary sheet as 18,000. The actual value was 15,000. You have shown 18,000. So can I say we are supposed to deduct the difference? Yes. Second one, the total of a page had been undercast by 600 rupees. What do you mean by the word undercast? Undercast means under totaled. So your actual total has been less by 600 rupees. So can I say we will add 600? Yes. So now what are we doing for this particular adjustment? We have identified that I am going to add, and page total of 515,000 carried as 18,000. So I'm going to deduct. Next, invoices of purchases entered in the purchase book during January to March 2021 total to 2,10,000. What do we do to purchases? We are supposed to add purchases, but they go ahead to say out of this 9,000 related to the goods received prior to 31st December, invoices entered in April 2021 relating to goods received in March total to 12,000. Okay, we are supposed to do some adjustment for this 9,000 and this 12,000 rupees. Similarly, point 4, sales invoice to customers total to 2,70,000. What are we supposed to do to sales? We are supposed to deduct the sales after converting it to cost price. Sales amounted to rupees 2,70,000, and then they also say of this rupees 15,000 related to goods dispatched before 31st December, goods dispatched to customers before 31st December but invoiced in April 2021 total to rupees 12,000. So we again need to do some adjustment for this 15,000 and 12,000 rupees. Okay. Point number 5. During the final quarter, credit notes. What do you mean by credit note? Credit note is given to your debtor, implying our sales returns. So these are sales returns. If sales is deducted, can I say sales returns will be added? Yes. So credit notes invoiced value of rupees 3,000. Now again, 3,000 is your invoice value or selling price. You need to convert it to your cost price. Why? All the amounts should either be cost price or it should be selling price. Because my purchases is at cost price. The amount that we start with 2,40,000 is at cost price. So we convert everything to cost price. Okay. This credit note of 3,000 rupees has been issued to the customers, and then the gross margin earned by the company is 25% on cost. Why are they giving you this profit percentage? To convert your selling price to profit. You are required to prepare a statement showing the amount of stock at cost as on 31st March 2021. So we need to find out what is the value of stock at cost on 31st March 2021. Let us go ahead. How do I start? I will start with the figure given to me on 31st December 2020. So now, question 2B, valuation of physical stock as at 31st March 2021. We start with the stock as on 31st December, 2,40,000 rupees. Now, coming to point number 1, a page total of rupees 15,000 had been carried to the summary sheet as rupees 18,000. So you have shown more, we have to deduct 3,000 rupees. So I will say point number 2A, right? Yes, point number 2A. Overcasting of a page total 18,000 minus 15,000, 3,000 will be deducted. Next, 2B. The total of a page had been undercast by rupees 600. So you have undercast a page total by rupees 600. So now I'm going to say 2B, undercasting of a page total, I'm going to add 600 rupees. Okay, now let us see what is going to happen to purchases. Invoices of purchases entered during the quarter of January to March total to rupees 2,10,000. So they've given you that the purchase invoices made during the month or during the quarter amounted to rupees 2,10,000. Out of this, 9,000 related to goods received prior to 31st December. So can I say this has actually been purchased prior to 31st December? Yes. So I'm not going to include 9,000 from my purchases. From the value of 2,10,000, I'm going to remove 9,000 because this was received prior to 31st December. Next, invoices entered in April 2021 relating to goods received in March. We have received the goods in March, 12,000, but the invoice was made in April. Can I say this 12,000 should be included in 2,10,000? In that 2,10,000, it is not included because the invoice is in April. Now I'm going to include and I'm going to say plus 12,000 rupees. So what is the purchase that I'm going to take? 2,10,000 minus 9,000 plus 12,000 will be the net purchases which will be added. So I come to the answer. This is point number 3. Goods purchased and delivered, purchased and delivered. I am assuming that the invoice, or I'm taking the point of ownership transfer at the delivery date. So goods purchased and delivered during January to March 2021, 2,10,000 minus 9,000 plus 12,000, giving an amount of 2,13,000 to be added. Next, coming to point number 4, sales invoice to customers total to rupees 2,70,000 during the quarter of January to March. Out of this, 15,000 related to goods dispatched before 31st March. So again, 15,000 is dispatched before 31st March itself, so it should not be included in 2,70,000. And then they say goods dispatched to customers before 31st March but invoiced in April amounted to rupees 12,000. So 12,000 is not included. I need to include 12,000 in my sales. And what is the total sales? 2,70,000 minus 15,000 plus 12,000. Now this is my selling price. I need to convert this to cost price. So how do I convert this to cost price? The profit is 25% on cost. So what do I get the amount? 2,70,000 minus 15,000 plus 12,000. That is equal to 2,67,000. Here, point number 4, goods sold and dispatched. 2,70,000 minus 15,000 plus 12,000 coming up to 2,67,000. I am going to remove the profit from this and I'm going to arrive at cost. So how do I remove the profit? It is 25% on cost. So 2 lakhs, this 2,67,000 that I have got is not my cost. So don't do 2,67,000 into 25%. You need to do 2,67,000 into 20%. 25% on cost, 20% on sale, or you can apply 25 divided by 125 on sale. Okay. So in the similar way, 2,67,000 into 25 divided by 125 is equal to 53,400. So now 2,67,000 minus 53,400 comes to 2,13,000. Okay. Coming to the last point, during the final quarter, credit notes at invoice value of rupees 3,000 had been issued to the customers in respect of goods returned during that period. So this is nothing but my sales returns. What am I supposed to do to sales returns? Sales was deducted. So now sales returns will be added. Will it be 3,000? No, it is going to be at 3,000 minus profit. So how do I get profit? 600 rupees. 600 rupees is nothing but star. I'm writing on the left hand side. 3,000 into 25 divided by 125, which is nothing but 3,000 into 20%, 600 rupees. Yes, sir. So now I have a total addition of 600 plus 2,13,000 plus 2,400 coming up to 2,16,000. Total deductions 3,000 plus 2,13,000 coming up to 2,16,600. No, I think there is some calculation error here. 2,16,000 is right. This is 2,13,600. This amount is being printed. There is a printing mistake in the amount there. 2,13,600. I'll just mark it in red color. And then you get a deduction of 216,600 and you get the value of closing stock 2,40,000 plus 2,16,000 minus 2,16,600, giving a value of 2,39,400. I hope this solution is clear. In the exam, along with this, you might also have adjustments of sale of goods on approval or return basis. Something that has not been approved or returned by the customer at the end of the year will be added to your closing stock. Or you could have goods sent on consignment. If you are the consigner, you will include it in your closing stock. If you are the consignee, it will not be part of your closing stock. So these are two extra points to be kept in mind for such kind of problems. Okay, now let us go to question 3. Question 3A. Mr. Z accepted a bill for rupees 50,000 drawn on him by Mr. Y on 1st August 2020. Mr. Z accepted the bill, so Mr. Z is the drawee. It was drawn by Mr. Y, so Mr. Y is the drawer. It was a 3-month bill. This was for the amount which Z owed to Y. On the same day, Mr. Y got the bill discounted with at his bank for rupees 49,000. The bill was for rupees 50,000. They've got it discounted with the bank for rupees 49,000. Okay. On the due date, Z approached Y for renewal of the bill. Mr. Y agreed on the condition that rupees 10,000 be paid immediately along with interest on the remaining amount at 12% per annum for 3 months, and that for the remaining balance, Z should accept a new bill for 3 months. These arrangements were carried through. On 31st December, Z became insolvent and his estate paid 40%. Pass journal entries in the books of Y. So they're asking us to pass journal entries in the books of the drawer. Now, just to give you a note on what are the scenarios existing over here. First, the bill is drawn. Then we have discounting of the bill. Then we have renewal of the bill. Renewal has 2 conditions. And then we have insolvency. So they have combined 3 scenarios and given a particular question to you. No problem. We can go ahead to pass the journal entries. They've asked journal entries in the books of Mr. Y, who is your drawer. Chalo, let us go ahead. Solution to question 3, journal entries in the books of Mr. Y. Okay. The first journal entry that I'm always going to draw is recording or acceptance of the bill. So in the books of Mr. Y, it's a bill receivable. Bill receivable is an asset. Therefore, bill receivable will be debited. I have bill receivable account debtor to Z account, the value of the bill being 50,000 rupees. Okay. Next, what am I doing? On the same day, Mr. Y is getting the bill discounted with his banker. So when he gets the bill discounted with his banker, the bill value is 50,000. He is going to receive a lesser amount. In this case, he is receiving 49,000. So what is the difference of 1,000? It is an expense for the drawer, which will be debited. So I will debit bank account with the amount received 49,000. I will credit bills receivable with the amount of bill going out 50,000. And then the difference of the two is nothing but my discount, which is an expense for the drawer, therefore is debited. Bank account debtor, discount account debtor, to bills receivable account, your entry for the bill being discounted with the bank. Next, what happens on due date? Now, when is the due date? It was a bill drawn for 3 months. The bill was drawn on 1st August. So 1st August plus 3 months plus 3 days grace comes up to 4th November. Please remember, you also need to calculate your dates for your journal entries. Do not leave the date column blank. Do not assume that they have not given you the date. You need to calculate your due date for the given term of the bill. Remember, a bill always has 3 days grace. So 1st August plus 3 months, 1st November plus 3 days, 4th November. Now what is happening on 4th November? Z approached Y for renewal of the bill. So can I say the old bill has to be cancelled? If he is approaching for renewal of the bill, I'm supposed to cancel the old bill. But the old bill has been given to the bank for discounting. So will I credit bills receivable? No. Now when Z does not pay for the bill, what is going to happen? Y has to pay to the bank. Yes. So what will happen? I will record Z account debtor. Why? Because the amount is receivable from Z. And I will credit my bank account on payment being made to the bank. Because Z did not pay, Y needs to pay to the bank rupees 50,000, rupees 50,000. Z account debtor to bank account. Okay. Now what is happening on this date? They want to renew the bill. There are 2 conditions for this. What are the 2 conditions? The bill is of value 50,000 rupees. The value of the bill is 50,000 rupees. And then they say 10,000 be paid immediately along with interest on the balance. And what is the rate of interest? They say 10,000 be paid immediately along with interest on the remaining amount at 12% per annum for 3 months. So the renewal period is 3 months and your interest per annum is 12%. Okay. So we are going to calculate interest at 12% for 3 months. And what is the balance? 40,000 rupees. Okay. So now they're saying your new bill amount is going to be 40,000 rupees. What is the amount of the cash to be received immediately? That will be 10,000 plus 40,000 into 12 by 100 into 3 by 12 comes up to 10,000 plus 1,200 equals to 11,200. Now, before recording the receipt of 11,200, don't you think I need to record this 1,200 as an interest? Because it is a gain for the drawer. So that first that 1,200 rupees has to be recorded as an income, and then I'm going to record the receipt of money. Okay, so I go and record in the books of Y. Z account debtor to interest account. Z account is the one who is going to pay. So he's the debtor or from whom I'm going to receive the money. To interest account, I have credited interest because it is an income. During renewal of a bill, it is an income for the drawer. Okay, the amount, like I said, 40,000 into 3 by 12 into 12% coming up to 1,200 rupees. Kindly cancel 10. It is 1,200. It is not 12,000. Okay, next. We are going to receive the money and we are going to draw a new bill. The new bill will be drawn for 40,000 rupees. So I will say cash account debtor 11,200. How did I get 11,200, sir? It is 10,000 plus 1,200. 10,000, the amount which is supposed to be received now out of the 50,000, 1,200, the interest on the balance amount. Bills receivable will be 40,000. How do I get 40,000, sir? It is nothing but 50,000 minus 10,000. So 40,000 is the new bill drawn to Z account, 51,200. 50,000, the value of the original bill, 1,200, the value of interest. Next, what happens? On 31st December, Z becomes insolvent and his estate paid 40%. So if Z becomes insolvent on 31st December, first I'm going to cancel the bill where I will record Z account debtor to bills receivable, the value of the second bill, which was 40,000 rupees. And then because I'm receiving 50%, I will say cash or bank account debtor 40,000 into not 50%, 40%, 40%, 16,000. Bad debts account debtor 24,000. Bad debts will be debited because it is a loss. And then to Z account 40,000 rupees being the amount received and written off on Z's insolvency. So simple question, we had discounting with the bank, we had renewal of the bill, and we had insolvency of the acceptor or insolvency of the drawee. Okay, let us go to the next question. On 31st March 2021, goods sold at a sale price of rupees 30,000 were lying with the customer, Sapan, to whom these goods were sold on sale or return basis, where they were recorded as actual sales. Since no consent had been received from Sapan, you are required to pass adjustment entries presuming goods were sent on approval or approval at a profit of cost plus 25%. The present market price is 20% less than the cost price. Now, what happens when goods are sent on approval or return basis, and the end of the financial year arrives and goods have not yet been approved, not yet been rejected, then what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to cancel the sale entry. Why? Because they were recorded as actual sales when we sent them. This is when goods are sent on approval or return basis casually. That is very rarely it is happening in the business. We treat it as an ordinary sale, but then at the end of the year, if they have not yet accepted the goods or if they have not yet rejected the goods, then what do? We reverse the sale entry, entry number 1. Entry number 2, we record our closing stock with the customer. Entry number 1, reversal of sale, will be done at the selling price itself. Entry number 2 will be done at cost or NRV, whichever is lower. Okay, let me go ahead to record the journal entries. Now I say journal entries, we do not know in whose books we are recording, so I just say journal entries. The first entry is for reversal of sale, so I'm going to record sales account debtor to Sapan account. When I make the sale, what I would have recorded? When I send the goods, I would have recorded Sapan to sale. Yes. So now on reversal, I'm going to record sales to Sapan. Please note, do not record sales return to Sapan because you have not actually sold the goods. So you cannot record a sales return. It is just a reversal or a cancellation of the original entry. The original entry was Sapan to sales. So now I am recording sales to Sapan at my selling price of 30,000 rupees. Next, I need to record closing stock. So my entry is going to be inventory with customers account debtor to trading account. Now, what is the value? The value is supposed to be cost or NRV, whichever is lower. Chalo, let us find out the cost price. The selling price of these goods is given 30,000 rupees, and they say goods are sent at cost plus 25%. Goods are sent at a profit of cost plus 25%. Okay, so if I remove the 25%, then will I arrive at cost price? Yes, 25% is on cost. So this 30,000 is selling price. I need to convert, sir. So I will say 30,000 into 25 divided by 125, or 30,000 into 20%. 6,000 is the amount of profit. Therefore, the cost of goods is 24,000 rupees, which was 30,000 minus 20%. Now, the current market price is 20% less than the cost price. My cost price is 24,000 rupees, but the current market price is 24,000 minus 20%, coming up to 19,200. If the current market price is 19,200, can I say the net realizable value is 19,200? Yes. Now valuation of inventory will be done at this cost or this NRV, whichever is lower, and therefore we are going to adopt 19,200 for our valuation. 19,200 as per your working note. Able to follow? Simple points to be kept in mind. Valuation of inventory done at cost or NRV, whichever is lower. Okay, now let us go to question 3C. Question 3C. Okay. Mira purchased goods on credit. His due dates for payments are given below. You are required to calculate average due date. What is average due date? Average due date is a date on which a single payment will be made instead of multiple payments without any loss to either of the parties. So now, if you see here in this particular case, Mira has made 4 transactions of 4 various amounts, and then they want to calculate an average due date. Instead of making 4 payments, she's going to make a single payment. Okay, how do we calculate average due date? Average due date is equal to base date plus total product divided by total amount. Now, for the base date, what do we need? For the base date, I need earliest due date. Do I have my due dates given in this question? Yes, they have already given me the due dates in this question. Please do not always assume that your transaction date will be your due date. There might be some information to calculate your due date or something like this where your due date is given to you. So out of these dates, I'm going to see whichever is my earliest due date, and that will be my base date. The base date is September 8th. Now let us go to solve this question. For any question given on average due date, you need to have a few columns compulsory in your question. Solution 3C, calculation of average due date. The columns that you need to have will always be due date, amount, number of days from base date, and product, plus or minus few additional columns if you need to calculate this particular due date. Here they have directly given it to you, so I'm directly taking the due date. Now, how do I calculate, sir? Due date already given in the question. Amount already given in the question. Number of days from base date, which is my base date, 8th September. The earliest due date is my base date. So now I am going to calculate the number of days. How do I calculate, sir? I'm going to calculate number of days from 8th September to 8th September, which is 0 days. Next, I'm going to calculate 8th September to 18th October. How do I calculate, sir? Let me write it on the side over there. This is star 1 from 8th September. So September is equal to 30 minus 8 days. October 18th. So plus 18, that is equal to 40. Okay, sir. Next one, we have it as 8th September to 13th November, star 2. 8th September. So September 30 minus 8, October 31, November 13 comes up to 66. And then star 3 from 8th September up to 10th December. Star 3, September 30 minus 8, October 31, November 30, December 10, coming up to 93 days. Yes, I have checked the calculations. They are correct. So, and then how do I get the product, sir? Product is equal to number of days into amount. Number of days from base date into amount. 600 into 0 coming up to 0, 400 into 40 coming up to 16,000, 550 into 66 coming up to 36,300, 800 into 93 coming up to 74,400. Then I take the total of my product column, which is coming up to 126,700. I take the total of my amount column, which is coming up to 2,350. And like I told you, average due date is equal to base date plus total product divided by total amount. So my base date is 8th September plus 126,700 divided by 2,350, which is equal to 8th September plus 54 days. Now from 8th September, if I need to calculate 54 days, I need to keep in mind it is approximately less than 2 months. So 8th September, in the month of September, how many days? 30 minus 8 comes up to how much? 22 days. Okay. In the month of October, how many days? 31 days. How much does that make a total of? 53. How many days do I need? I need 54 days. So can I say for November, I'm going to consider 1 day, and therefore the average due date being 1st November. They've not given you the year. If they're giving you the year, you need to also mention the year. So here I will directly mention as 1st November is my average due date. Simple calculations, be careful on calculating number of days. Also, point to be kept in mind, if this was a bill of exchange, you need to add 3 days while calculating your due date. 3 grace days as per the Negotiable Instruments Act. Okay. Now let us go to question number 4. Question number 4 says, from the following data, prepare an income and expenditure account for the year ended 31st December 2020 and a balance sheet as at that date for New Max Hospital. So when do we prepare an income and expenditure account for a non-profit organization? Income and expenditure account is similar to your profit and loss account for a business organization, but because it's a non-profit organization, we cannot call it profit or loss. Therefore, we call it our income and expenditure account. Now, what is the data given to prepare the income and expenditure account? Normally, they would have given us the receipts and payments account. What is receipts and payments account? It is a summarized cash book where you have all a summary of all your transactions, whichever are made in cash. Okay, so let us look into the data given to us. Like I said, receipts and payments account for the year ended 31st December 2020. On the receipt side, we always start with the opening balance of cash in bank. Then we have received subscriptions for 2019, 20, and 21. To government grant for building, for maintenance, for sundry, from fees from sundry patients. And then we have donations which are not to be capitalized. On the payment side, I have salary, out of which rupees 3,600 is for 2019. I have hospital equipment, furniture, additions to building, printing and stationery, diet expenses, rent and rates, out of which rupees 150 was for 2021, electricity and water charges, office expenses, investments, and then we have the closing balance of cash and bank. On the receipt side, I just missed one thing. We also have net collection from benefit shows. Okay, all simple, nothing complicated. Additional information. Value of building under construction as on 31st December 2020. 31st December 2020 is the end of the financial year. So at the end of the financial year, the value of building is 70,000. Value of hospital equipment again on 31st December, end of the year, is 25,500. Building fund as on 1st January is 40,000 rupees. Subscription in arrears as on 31st December 2019 was 3,250. Investment in 8% government securities were made on 1st July 2020. Okay, this is the information given to us. Is there anything else? No. So they have asked us to prepare what? Income and expenditure account and balance sheet. Now, few points to be kept in mind. Your income and expenditure account, like I said, is similar to your profit and loss account. Income and expenditure account is similar to profit and loss account. What do we record here? We record all revenue items only. Again, income and expenditure account is prepared on accrual basis. That means only current period items are going to come in your income and expenditure account. And then I will say it records cash and non-cash items. Example, depreciation. So both cash items and non-cash items will be recorded in your income and expenditure account. What about receipts and payments account? Receipts and payments account records all items irrespective of capital or revenue. They are going to record all the cash flows, whether you have purchased a capital item or whether it is a revenue expense. Both the things will be recorded. It is not prepared on accrual basis, it is prepared on cash basis, irrespective of the time period to which the item relates. If it is paid or received during the year, you're going to record it. And then it records only cash items. Non-cash items such as depreciation will not be recorded in your receipts and payments account. Okay, having this summary, let us step into the solution now. Given a question for non-profit organizations, you please go from one side. Either you first look into the receipts or you look into the payments, and then you prepare the income and expenditure accordingly. First, let me look into the receipts. Now, like I said, in your income and expenditure account, only accrual, on accrual basis, only current period items will be recorded. So can I say subscriptions, we are going to record only for 2020, 12,550 rupees. Yes. Is there any other information for 2020? No. They've said something, subscription in arrears as on 31st December 2019. So this pertains to 2019. For 2020, there is nothing outstanding. There is nothing prepaid. So the amount going to be taken in my income and expenditure account is going to be 12,250 rupees. Let us look into the answer as well. So we have income and expenditure account for the year ended 31st December 2020 for New Max Hospital. By subscriptions on the income side, 12,550. Directly, I'm taking the amount given to me for 2020, 12,550 rupees. Next, we have two government grant. Now, I have a government grant for building, I have a government grant for maintenance, and I have a government grant for fees from sundry patients. Can I say building is a capital item? Yes. So therefore, this will be taken as a capital receipt and will be taken in the balance sheet. For maintenance and fees from sundry patients are more revenue in nature. Therefore, they will be taken in your income and expenditure account. 10,000 for maintenance, 2,400 for fees from sundry patients, directly taken in my income and expenditure account. By government grant 10,000, by fees from sundry patients 2,400. Okay. Next, there is just a small printing mistake here. This you should have the word to. Government grant is for building and maintenance, and then you have fees from sundry patients. Okay. Next, we have donations which are not to be capitalized. They are directly saying not to be capitalized. Therefore, where will we take them? We will take them in the income and expenditure account. No information given for outstanding prepaid. Directly, I am taking 4,000 in my income and expenditure account. Next, net collections from benefit shows 3,000 rupees. No other information available. Directly taken 3,000 rupees in my income and expenditure account. I have taken all the items on the receipt side. Now coming to the payment side. Now on the payment side, we have salaries. 15,600 is paid during the year. This is my receipts and payments account. That means 15,600 is the actual cash outflow during the year, but 3,600 belongs to 2019. So should I record the 3,600? No. What am I going to record? Only for the current year, that is 2020. I'm preparing for the year 2020. Therefore, only 2020 salary will be recorded. So what will I say? 15,600 minus 3,600, 12,000 is going to be recorded. 15,600 minus 3,600. 12,000 rupees of expenditure for salary will be recorded in your income and expenditure account. Again, one more point to be noted: in your receipts and payments account, the left side record receipts. In your income and expenditure account, the right side records incomes. So keep this in mind. Do not get confused in the exam. Next, going ahead to the next item in the receipts and payments account, hospital equipment, capital item, it's a fixed asset purchased. Furniture purchased, capital item, it's a fixed asset. Additions to building, again, capital item, fixed asset. By printing and stationery, 1,200. No other information given for printing and stationery. So directly I'm taking 1,200 to printing and stationery, 1,200. Then I have by diet expenses 7,800. So directly taken to diet expenses 7,800. Then by rent and taxes, sorry, rent and rates 1,000 rupees is the cash outflow during the year. Rupees 150 pertains to 2021. So again, I'm supposed to exclude this 150 rupees and I will record 1,000 minus 150, 850 rupees as to rent and rates in my income and expenditure account. 850 rupees would be the expense for the current year. Continuing, electricity and water charges 1,200, directly recorded electricity and water charges 1,200. I have by office expenses 1,000, directly recording to office expenses 1,000 rupees. And then I have by investments 10,000. Now, investments is a capital item, sir. But don't you think this investments will give you some income? Yes, the last point in the additional information says investment in 8% government securities was made on 1st July 2020. Okay, so the amount of investment is 10,000. Now I'm calculating the interest here. So 10,000 into 8 by 100, because it is made on 1st July, we will calculate for 6 months. So that comes up to how much? 400 rupees, if I'm not wrong. 400 rupees will be recorded as income for the year not yet received. So in my income and expenditure account, what do? I record by interest on investments on the income side 400 rupees. How did we get 400 again? 10,000 into 8% into 6 by 12. Okay. Now, once you have completed looking into the receipt side and the payment side completely, do not miss to again just run through the additional information. Like I said, this particular point was missed. Value of building capital item, value of hospital capital item, building fund capital item, subscriptions in arrears as on 31st December 3,250. So for 2019, there was a subscription arrear of 3,250 rupees. But for 2019, how much have I received? I have received only 2,550. So can I say still there is some amount outstanding? 3,250 was outstanding. I received 2,550 rupees. So still there is some amount outstanding for 2019. That is the point to be kept in mind. Other than that, we have completed our income and expenditure account. Okay, sir. In the income and expenditure account, whatever the balancing figure is there is called as your surplus or deficit. If the income is in excess, it's a surplus. If the expenses are in excess, it's called a deficit. Okay, we have prepared the income and expenditure account. Now they also ask us to prepare balance sheet as on that date or balance sheet as on 31st December for New Max Hospital. To prepare balance sheet, I have details of assets and liabilities, but I do not have my opening capital. Whatever the opening capital is there, the surplus received will be added and I will get my closing capital. But because I don't have my opening capital, we need to prepare the opening balance sheet as a part of working note. And in the opening balance sheet, I am going to get the capital as a balancing figure. Chalo, let us try to look at the information available to us. Now, for opening balance sheet, is there any information given to us? No, sir. My building is given to me as on 31st December 2020. My hospital is given to me as on 31st December 2020. Building fund is given to me on 1st January. And then they say subscriptions outstanding as on 31st December. Okay. So now how do I prepare the balance sheet on 1st January? Can I say value of building as on 31st December 2020, 70,000 minus whatever current year I would have paid? If you see in the payment side, there is some addition to building, 25,000 rupees. So in the current year, I have paid 25,000 towards the building and the building value is 70,000. So if I deduct 25,000 from 70,000, will I get the opening balance? Yes. Similar to hospital equipment. Hospital equipment, how much have I added during the current year? During the current year for hospital equipment, I have added 8,500 rupees. If I deduct 8,500 rupees from 25,500, will I get the opening balance? Yes. So let us look into the working notes prepared. Value of building. Balance as on 31st December 70,000 minus amount paid during the year 25,000. So value as on 31st December 2019 is going to be 45,000 rupees. The same thing as discussed. Value of equipment. Equipment, they have said hospital equipment. Yes, sir. So the balance as on 31st December 2020, closing of the year was 25,500. You deduct the amount paid during the year 8,500 and you get your balance as on 31st December 2019, which is your opening balance 17,000. Okay, now we go to record these items. Working note number 1 was your opening balance sheet as on 31st December 2019. You can alternatively take it as 1st January 2020. Okay. On 1st January 2020, what is the information available to us now? There is building 45,000 rupees, equipment 17,000 rupees. Please do not record building 70,000 and hospital equipment 25,500. These values are taken from the second and the third working note. Building is 40,000 and hospital equipment is 17,000. Please do not record the closing values by mistake. Okay. There's subscription receivable to the extent of 3,250, which is an opening balance. And then I get my cash and bank opening balance where, sir? In my receipts and payments account. In the receipts and payments account, you start with the opening balance of cash and bank and you end with the closing balance. So the opening balance of cash and bank will be recorded. Let me just see what is the balance for 400 and 2,600. So the same thing recorded over here, 2,600 and 400. Now coming to the liabilities side, where do we need to identify any liability? So sir, what kind of liabilities could be there? Outstanding expenses are liabilities and prepaid incomes are liabilities. You need to identify in the question if there is any outstanding expense or a prepaid income. Yes, if I look into salaries, 3,600 has been paid for 2019. That means, can I say in 2019 or as on 31st December 2019, 3,600 was outstanding? Yes. So I include that in my opening balance sheet, salaries payable 3,600 rupees. And then in the additional information, they also tell me building fund as on 1st January was on 1st January 2020 was rupees 40,000. So I say building fund 40,000 rupees, and then I get my opening balance of capital as a balancing figure. 68,250 is the total of the assets. I minus 40,000 minus 3,600 and I get my opening capital as a balancing figure of 24,650. Using this capital, I make my closing balance sheet. Now let me go ahead to record the closing balance sheet. In the closing balance sheet, I'm going to record opening capital as per working note number 1. In the working note number 1, we prepared the opening balance sheet and got opening capital as a balancing figure. So I record 24,650 as opening capital. And then I'm going to record the surplus amount received in the income and expenditure account. In my income and expenditure account, I had a surplus of 8,000 rupees. This 8,000 rupees will be added to my capital. Like in business organizations, you used to add net profit to the capital. Here, we are not using the word profit. We are using the word surplus. It is going to be added to the capital in your balance sheet. Next, going ahead, building fund. The opening balance was 40,000. And then I identified a few items to be capitalized in my receipts and payments account. In my receipts and payments account, there was a government grant for building. There was hospital equipment purchase. There was furniture purchase. There was addition to building. So all these items will now come into my balance sheet or closing balance sheet. So how much have I received during the current year? I have received 40,000 rupees. So opening balance 40,000, add amount received in the current year 40,000, 80,000 is my total building fund. Subscriptions received in advance is also there here. For 2021, I have received subscription of 1,200. Prepaid income, like I told you, it is a liability. So it is going to come on the liability side. Subscription received in advance. This is for 2021, 1,200 rupees recorded on the liability side. Building, you can directly take 70,000 because it is given to you, or you can show the presentation of 45,000 plus 25,000. Hospital equipment, again, you can directly take 25,500, or you can show the presentation of 17,000 plus 18,500. Furniture purchased during the current year. Here we have furniture purchased 3,000 rupees. So furniture purchased will be shown on the asset side, 3,000 rupees. 8% government securities, 10,000. Buy investments, capital item recorded 10,000 rupees. So I go ahead to record investments 10,000 rupees. And then you record your cash and bank balance from where? From your receipts and payments account. 3,400, 700. Where is it, sir? In your receipts and payments account, you are having the closing balance of cash and bank. 700 and 3,400. Now, apart from this, what do you need? You need to go and look into outstanding items and prepaid items. What are assets, sir? What are assets? Outstanding incomes will be an asset and prepaid expenses will be an asset. Now, see in the question and identify if there is any item. Yes, we have paid rent for 2021. So I will say prepaid rent 150 rupees. And then we also calculated interest which is not received 400 rupees. So I will say outstanding interest 400 rupees. We calculated it. And then, sir, we also saw that in the year 2019, how much was my subscription receivable for the year 2019? 3,250. But how much is the subscription received? 2,550. So I told you there is some amount still outstanding. 3,250 minus 2,550. What is this amount? 700 rupees. This 700 rupees is still outstanding for the year 2019. Since it is subscription outstanding amount receivable, I show it on the asset side. Subscription receivable 700 rupees. And with this, your balance sheet should match at 1,13,850 rupees. Points to be kept in mind: your opening balance sheet will not be given to you, so you need to prepare your opening balance sheet as a part of working note to identify your opening capital. You identify outstanding and prepaid items as assets and liabilities depending on the various information given to you. Try to collect the information. And then point number 3, revenue and capital items, you need to differentiate. Capital items come into the balance sheet, revenue items come into your income and expenditure account. In your receipts and payments account, both revenue and capital items are going to come. In this particular question, they've not given us information for depreciation. If they had given us depreciation, your depreciation would be shown in your income and expenditure account on the expenses side. Non-cash expenses are also shown in your income and expenditure account, and you would have deducted the amount from your fixed asset in your balance sheet. So simple question, solvable. Now coming to question number 5A. The following are the balances as at 31st March 2021 extracted from the books of Mr. Vijay. So we have a few ledger balances given to us. And then additional information, there are a few points, and then they finally go to say prepare a trading and profit and loss account for the year ended 31st March 2021 and a balance sheet as on that date. So this question is dealing with final accounts of a sole proprietor, Mr. Vijay. So what do we do when we get a question on final accounts of a sole proprietorship? All your trial balance items, or like this, all your ledger accounts will be classified. What is the classification that we give? Direct income, direct expense, trading account; indirect income, indirect expense, profit and loss account; asset, liability, capital in the balance sheet. And then we take up each of the adjustment, give two treatments for each of the adjustment, and then close our financial statements. So what am I going to do in this question? I'm going to give you the classification of the accounts. You will go and place them in the appropriate place in their financial statements. Okay, let us go ahead to give the classification now one by one. So plant and machinery, where do we record, sir? We record in the balance sheet on the asset side. Furniture fixture, again on the balance sheet asset side. Bank overdraft, balance sheet liability side. Capital account, balance sheet liability side. Drawings account, balance sheet liability side as a deduction from capital. Purchases, in my trading account debit side. Opening stock, again trading account debit side. Wages, direct expense, therefore trading account debit side. Provision for doubtful debts, sir, I have told you, whenever you have provision for doubtful debts in the trial balance, or they've given you the balance as a part of the information, what are you going to do? You're going to prepare your PBD account. So this will come as working note. Similar for provision for discount on debtors, again we will have a working note. So I'm going to discuss these two things as a part of working note. Okay, sundry debtors, where do we show, sir? Balance sheet asset side. Sundry creditors, balance sheet liabilities side. Bad debts, now provision is existing in the trial balance, bad debts will be taken in provision account. Provision does not exist, bad debts will be shown in your profit and loss account. Now here, because provision is existing, this bad debts will be taken under the working note for provision for bad debts. Bad debts recovered, show it in your P&L account on the credit side. Bad debts recovered is an income, or you can say it is a cancellation of a previous expense. So it will be shown on the credit side in the P&L account. Salaries, P&L account, debit side. Salary payable as per the classification, sir, it is a liability. Therefore, on the balance sheet liability side. Prepaid rent, balance sheet asset side. Rent, only rent given as an expense. Therefore, P&L account debit side. Carriage inwards, trading account debit side. Carriage outwards, P&L account debit side. Carriage inwards is a direct expense. Carriage outwards is an indirect expense. Sales, trading account credit side, direct income. Advertisement expense, P&L account debit side. Next, printing and stationery, again P&L account, debit side. Cash in hand, where do you show cash in hand? It is an asset, so balance sheet asset side. Cash at bank, again balance sheet asset side. Office expenses, P&L account, debit side. Interest paid on loan, P&L account, debit side. So I have classified these items. You will go place them in the appropriate place in your financial statements. Please do not prepare first trading account, then P&L account, then balance sheet. Prepare all the three statements together in three separate places. Take each item, place it in the appropriate place. Take each item, place it in the appropriate place. This is what you will be doing. As I classified, you will go and place it in the appropriate places. Okay, let us read through the additional information now. Additional information number one, purchase include sales returns of rupees 5,150 and sales include purchase returns of rupees 3,450. So what are we supposed to do? I will discuss the adjustments in a separate sheet and you will know what is supposed to be done. Adjustment number one, they say purchases include rupees 5,150 of sales returns. This 5,150 is actually sales returns. So what can I say? Number one, you will deduct 5,150 from purchases. This is the first treatment. And the second treatment will be what? Show sales returns of 5,150 rupees. Sales return is not existing in the trial balance, so it will be 0 plus 5,150. If there was an amount of sales returns, you would have added 5,150 to that amount given to you. And then point B, they say sales include purchase returns of 3,450. So what will I say? Deduct 3,450. 3,450 is the amount, yes, from sales. And then I will say show purchase return of rupees 3,450. Where do we show purchase return and sales return? Sales return will be deducted from sales on credit side of trading account, and then purchase returns will be deducted from purchases on the debit side of trading account. So first adjustment, quite simple. There was an amount included in purchases. We remove it from our purchases. Wherever it is, we are going to show it. In this question, it was sales return. So we show it under sales return. Similar to this, they could give you furniture is included. Purchase of furniture is included in purchase account. So we deduct it from purchases. We put it in the furniture. What are we doing? Rectification of the error. Or wherever it is not supposed to be included, we remove it from there. Wherever it is supposed to be recorded, we go and record in that place. Okay. Adjustment number two. What does adjustment number two say? Free samples distributed for publicity costing rupees 1,650. Free samples are distributed. So goods are going out other than by way of sale. Take it as a rule, you need to credit your purchase account. So for item number two, what are we going to do? We are going to deduct the amount from purchases because purchases will be credited, and then we are going to add the amount to advertisement expense. What is the amount given to me in the question? 1,650. 1,650 will be deducted from purchases. 1,650 will be added to advertisement account. Why, sir? Because these are free samples issued. Free samples are issued for advertisement. Advertisement will be debited. Purchase will be credited. Okay. Now let us go to point number three. Point number three says goods withdrawn by Mr. Vijay for own consumption rupees 7,000 is included in purchases. So they have not recorded a drawings entry. You need to record a drawings entry. Okay, how do I record drawings? I'm going to say adjustment number three, drawings account debtor to purchases account. And then because drawings will be debited, what is happening? We add the amount to drawings. And now your total drawings will be deducted from capital. And then because you're crediting purchases, we deduct from purchases. So if you see adjustment number 1, adjustment number 2, and adjustment number 3 had a deduction from purchases, the value being 7,000 rupees. 7,000 rupees will be added to drawings. 7,000 rupees will be deducted from purchases. Point number 1, 2, 3 all had adjustments towards purchases. Be careful, leave proper space, and then write down in your answer sheet. Coming to adjustment number 4, wages for the month of April for installation of plant and machinery amounting to rupees 900 were included in wages account. Now what has happened? They've paid wages for installation of plant and machinery. It is supposed to be added to plant and machinery account, but where have they included the amount? They have included the amount in wages account. So what are we going to do for adjustment number 4? Can I say we will remove the amount from wages and we will take it under plant and machinery? Yes. So for adjustment number 4, what am I going to do? I'm going to deduct amount from wages and I'm going to add the amount to plant and machinery. What is the value? 900 rupees. Okay, sir. What am I doing, sir? I have placed all the items of trial balance in the appropriate place in the financial statements. Each adjustment I am taking, I am doing the two treatments. This is how you are supposed to solve your question on final accounts. Next, coming to the next adjustment. Create a provision for doubtful debts at 5% and a provision for discount on debtors at 2.5%. So I had told you, you will be creating a PBD account and a provision for discount on debtors account whenever they have PBD in your trial balance. Chalo, let us look into the account now. Now I'm drawing, this is adjustment number 5A, provision for bad debts account. Okay, how do I start preparing the provision for bad debts account? I'm going to start with the opening balance given to me. How much is the opening balance given to me? Here you can see that the opening balance given to me is 6,400. So I record 6,400 as the opening balance, and there is bad debts of 2,200, which will also be shown in your PBD account. So what do I say? I go to my working note. I say by balance brought down the opening balance of 6,400 rupees. And then there are bad debts, which I'm going to show in my PBD account. What is the value of bad debts? Value of bad debts is 2,200. I'm recording the bad debts in the PBD account. I will say 2 bad debts, the value of 2,200. Now this is the information given to me in the question. After this, what are they saying? They're telling to create a provision. How much is the provision to be created? 5% of what? 5% of debtors. So let me look into the question. 2,40,000 is my debtor balance. And like I said, 5% is the provision to be created. So I will go ahead to say, what is this 5% now? This is my closing balance in my PBD account. So I will say to balance carried down 2,40,000 into 5%, coming up to 12,000 rupees. And now what is the balancing figure? The balancing figure is nothing but your amount shown in your profit and loss account. So we will have by profit and loss account, the balancing figure, how much? 14,200, 6,400, 7,800 is it? Please check the balance. 7,800. Yes. Now 7,800. What will I do? The two treatments I'm showing you in the final accounts. First one, in your PNL account, you are going to say to provision for bad debts 7,800, and then the second treatment you are going to deduct from debtors 12,000 rupees. What is 12,000 rupees, sir? Your closing provision will be deducted from debtors. So this is how you prepare your provision for bad debts account. Now in the similar way, we will be preparing provision for discount. One point to be noted, provision for bad debts is prepared before provision for discount because you do not give discount to your bad debts. Chalo, let us go ahead to prepare provision for discount account. 5B, provision for discount account. So again, I have by balance brought down. What is the balance given to me in the question? In the question, they have a balance of 2,750, and then they say create a provision of 2.5%. So let me go ahead to record these things. 2,750 is my opening balance, and then I do not have any other entries, so I will say to balance carried down 2.5% of debtors. Let us calculate. So I will say 2,40,000 your opening debtors minus 12,000 your provision for bad debts, the amount into 2.5%. So that is coming up to 5,700. Now in the similar way, I record the balancing figure. I will say by P&L account balancing figure, how much? 5,700 minus 2,750, coming up to 2,950. Okay, sir. And what do I do? What is the treatment in the final accounts? In my P&L account, I will say to provision for discount 2,950 on the debit side, and the second treatment deduct from debtors which value? Your closing provision of 5,700. This closing provision will be deducted from debtors. So I hope you are understanding the treatment of provision for discount and provision for bad debts in your final accounts. Coming to the sixth adjustment, depreciation is to be provided on plant and machinery at 15% per annum and on furniture at 10% per annum. Simple. Let us go and calculate depreciation. Point number 6. Point number 6A, machinery. What was the given value of machinery? If I look into my question, the given value of machinery was 39,100. Should I provide depreciation on 39,100? No, there was some wages which was supposed to be included in plant and machinery. So what will I do? I will take the correct value, 39,100 plus 900 rupees into 15%. This is my total depreciation, which is coming up to 40,000 into 15%, which is coming up to 6,000 rupees. And then 6B, we have furniture. What is the given value of furniture? The given value of furniture is 20,500 and the rate of depreciation expected is 10%. So directly I'm taking 20,500 into 10%, which is coming up to rupees 2,050. Now, what is the treatment in final accounts? Not only the calculation, but the treatment is also important. The first treatment is depreciation of 8050 will be shown on debit side of P&L account, and then depreciation will be deducted from their fixed assets in the balance sheet. From machinery, we are going to deduct 6,000. From furniture, we are going to deduct 2050. Remember, in machinery, do not just record 39,100. You have, as per adjustment number 3 or 4, as per adjustment number 4, we have already added 900 rupees to machinery. So 40,000 minus 6,000 will be your net value of machinery in the balance sheet. Okay, coming to the next adjustment. Is there anything else? Adjustment number 6, closing stock as on 31st March was 2,50,000. What do we do to closing stock? So if closing stock is given in the trial balance, we show it only in the balance sheet. Here it is given as a part of adjustments. So what will we do, sir? Closing stock, we show it in two places, or the two treatments is trading account credit side and balance sheet asset side. Because it is given as an adjustment, we are going to give two treatments. Okay, sir, 2,40,000 is the value which will be shown on both the places. And with this, you are going to close your final accounts. Please remember to close your final accounts. Whatever GP you get in your trading account, carry it forward to your P&L account. Whatever net profit you get in your P&L account, carry it forward to the balance sheet. It will be added to capital. If you get a net loss, you can deduct it from capital. If you feel that your adjustments are correct and you have got a net loss, it can be possible. Do not think, sir, I have got a net loss, I'm making a mistake. If you feel that all the adjustments that you have done properly and then you get a net loss, it could be possible that the question is giving you a net loss. Net loss will be deducted from capital. Simple question. All the adjustments were discussed in class. So what you're supposed to do, take each adjustment, do the two treatments. And then first you're obviously supposed to classify the items, and then you will be taking each item and doing the two treatments. Simple question. Chalo, now let us go to the next question. Question number 5B. The following is the balance sheet of MS Krishna Brothers as at 31st March 2021. They share profits and losses equally. So in the balance sheet, on the liability side, we have the capital of Amit, Lalit, and Sumit, general reserve, trade payables. On the asset side, I'm having machinery, furniture and fixture is given separately. Okay, cash, inventory, trade receivables, less provision for doubtful debts, and the total of the balance sheet is coming up to 99,300. And then they go ahead to say, Sumit died on 1st April 2021 and the following agreement was to be put into effect. Assets were to be revalued. The following amounts are given to you. Goodwill of the firm was valued at 18,000 rupees and was to be credited with his share without using goodwill account. Okay. Rupees 6,000 is to be paid to the executors of the debt partner. After death of Sumit, Amit and Lalit share profits equally. You are required to prepare journal entries for goodwill adjustment, revaluation account, and capital accounts of the partners. Okay. Now, previously also they were sharing profits and losses equally. Okay. Whenever any question is given to you for partnership accounts, I have told you that you need to think about a certain few adjustments. What are those adjustments? Let it be any question. Let it be admission, let it be retirement, let it be death. In this particular case, there is death. But what are the adjustments that we are supposed to think about? These are those adjustments. You're supposed to think about your new profit sharing ratio, which will be calculated. You are always supposed to calculate sacrifice ratio or gain ratio, even if they do not ask you in the question. Why do you need the sacrifice ratio, gain ratio? To do your goodwill adjustment. You will be having revaluation of assets and liabilities. Like I said, your goodwill adjustment, goodwill could be the different scenarios given to you. Goodwill brought in cash, goodwill of the firm given to you, goodwill should be valued, goodwill of the partner given to you, etc. Whatever the case is given, you will be following whatever the information is given to you. And then distribution of reserves. These adjustments have to be automatically coming into mind when you have a question of partnership. Also, if the question demands, you will have treatment of joint life policy and share of profit up to date of death if they have died in between the financial year. In this particular question, the death is on 1st April itself, so there is no any share of profit up to date of death. Okay, now those adjustments are there in my mind. Similar things they've given here. Chalo, let us see. The first one, they say give journal entry for goodwill adjustment. For goodwill adjustment, what do I need? I need sacrifice ratio, gain ratio. How do I calculate? My old ratio was equal 1:1:1. My new ratio is again equal 1:1. So if I calculate my sacrifice ratio, what do I get, sir? Sacrifice ratio is equal to, under sacrifice, which is more, old or new? Under sacrifice, old is going to be more. So old share minus new share. So here we have working note number 1, statement showing required adjustment for goodwill. You have Mr. Amit and Mr. Lalit, and there is a gain or sacrifice. I used to do Amit, Lalit, Sumit. Here they have done in the column wise, but it is the same thing. Your new share, your old share, and you're going to compare both. So I can say that Amit and Lalit have gained 1/6, 1/6, and Sumit has sacrificed 1/3. What is our journal entry for goodwill adjustment? Our journal entry for goodwill adjustment is gaining partner to sacrificing partner. So who are the gaining partners here? Amit and Lalit. Who is the sacrificing partner? Sumit. So I will say A, L, to S. Now this journal entry will be in which ratio? It will be in the sacrifice ratio. And what would be the amount, sir? Will I adjust the full goodwill? No. They say goodwill of the firm is valued, or goodwill was valued at 18,000. When they have said valued at, it means goodwill of the firm is 18,000 rupees. Will I do the adjustment for 18,000 rupees? No. Sumit is dying, so I will do only Sumit's share, which is 1/3. What is my journal entry for goodwill adjustment? I will record Amit capital account at R, Lalit capital account at R, to Sumit capital account 18,000 into 1/3, going in the ratio of 1:1. Simple, sir. Gaining partner account at R to sacrificing partner account. Okay, sir. Next, they ask us to prepare revaluation account and capital accounts of the partners. For preparing revaluation account, I need to look into point number 1. Chalo, let us look into revaluation account. Now, what is the given value? Here you can see on the screen the given value and the revalued amounts. Machinery is to be revalued at 35,100. The given value of machinery is 30,000. So can I say machinery is increasing? Yes, sir. What about furniture, sir? The given value of furniture is 16,800 and you have to record at 13,800. So value of furniture is decreasing. Fixtures 12,600 as it is. Inventory 4,500. Inventory given value 5,700. So inventory also decreasing. There are two assets which are reducing. There is one asset which is increasing. How do I prepare my revaluation account? Machinery account will be debited, revaluation account will be credited. So in my revaluation account, I record by machinery 5,100, which is nothing but 35,100 minus 30,000, the given value in the balance sheet minus the revalued amount. Furniture decreasing. So to furniture, I will record 3,000 rupees. To inventory, I will record 1,200. And then the balancing figure is going to go between whom? Old partners. In which ratio? In old profit sharing ratio. Here your balancing figure is 900, which will go between all the three partners as 300 rupees each. Simple revaluation account. Let us go to prepare the partners capital account. So like I said, in the partners capital account, what are the adjustments to be thought about? You will think about these things. Your revaluation profits have to be distributed, your goodwill adjustment has to be done, and your reserves has to be distributed, if any existing in the balance sheet. Okay, sir. But before all this, how do you start preparing your partners capital account? Do not forget, you are going to start with giving your opening balances of the partners. 24,600, 24,600 and 27,000 will first be given as your opening balance in your partners capital account. In the partners capital account, I am first recording the opening balance 24,600, 24,600 and 27,000 for A, L and S, Amit, Lalit and Sumit. Next, I record my revaluation profit, sir, 300 rupees, 300 rupees, 300 rupees as per the revaluation account prepared. Next, I do my goodwill adjustment, sir. According to the goodwill adjustment, what is happening? Amit and Lalit will be debited with 3,000 rupees. So on the debit side, I fill for Amit and Lalit 3,000 rupees and Sumit's account will be credited. Therefore, I credit Sumit's account with 6,000 rupees. Now, sir, I have done the revaluation. I have done the revaluation of assets, distributed the profits. I've done the goodwill adjustment. What else am I supposed to do, sir? I'm supposed to see the balance sheet. Is there any existing reserve? Yes, sir. 9,000 is there. To whom is this 9,000 going to go? It is going to go to old partners in your old profit sharing ratio. 9,000 rupees divided by 3 partners, 3,000 rupees each. And then, sir, coming to the adjustments, point number 1 dealt with, point number 2 dealt with, point number 3, rupees 6,000 is paid to the executors of the debt partner. So if I'm paying to the executors, cash account will be credited. Therefore, I record to cash account 6,000 rupees in Sumit's account because Sumit is the partner who deceased or who died. So it will go under Sumit's column. Please remember the column in which you are recording. And then the balancing figure for Mr. Amit and Lalit will be balance carried down. And for Mr. Sumit, it will be taken as executor's account because you are transferring the amount to his executor. Executor is nothing but his legal heir. Under retirement, we transfer it to the retiring partner's loan account. But here the deceased partner is no more there. So you transfer it to his executor's account, balancing figure. Simple question, sir. Nothing too complicated. Coming to the last question, question number 6. Deepak Chemical Limited invited applications for 10 lakh shares of rupees 100 each payable as follows. So this is a question on issue of shares, one of my favorite chapters in the exam, very scoring if you understand the concepts well. So 100 rupees is the face value of the share and it is payable as follows. On application 10 rupees, on allotment 30, on first call 30, on final call 30. The date of allotment, first call and final call has been given to you. So the issue price is coming up to 100 rupees itself. So it is a issue at par. There is no discount or premium involved. All the shares were applied for and allotted. A shareholder holding 15,000 shares paid the whole amount due along with allotment. There is one shareholder who has paid the entire money at the allotment stage itself. So he is paying calls in advance. You are required to prepare the journal entries for the above mentioned transactions, assuming all sums due were received. Interest was paid to the shareholder concerned on 1st March 2021. So there is the shareholder who is paying calls in advance. You have paid interest to the shareholder. Simple question. Let us step into the journal entries. Few points to be noted, like I always do. Face value of the share, rupees 100. Issue price of the share, rupees 100. So there is no discount or premium. Please note, shares cannot be issued at a discount except if they are sweat equity shares or right shares, and shares can be issued at a premium as well. But in this particular case, as the issue price is equal to the face value, there is no any discount or premium. Let us go ahead to record the journal entries. The first entry in the application stage is you are going to receive the application. So how many shares? There are 10 lakh shares which have been issued. So I'm going to receive 10 lakh applications. And what is the amount per share? 10 rupees. So what will I record? Bank account data, to share application account, 10 lakh shares into 10 rupees each. Because rupees is in lakhs, I'm recording only 100. It's 100 lakhs, but because I've said rupees in lakhs, I'm recording only 100. 10 lakh shares into 10 rupees each. Now, once you receive the application money and when you want to allot the shares, what do? We transfer the application money to the share capital, and then we call for allotment money due. So there are two entries. One is share application will be transferred to share capital. And then the second entry is share allotment money due will be debited and share capital will be credited. So these two entries have been combined to you and given over here, where they say share application and allotment account data. It should have said share application account data 100 rupees. Share application account data 100 lakhs. Share allotment, again, it is 10 lakh shares into 30 rupees each, giving a value of 300. Okay, and then to share capital, the total credit of 400. They've combined two entries together and given a compound entry. You could give two separate individual entries as well. Share application to share capital 100, share allotment to share capital 300. Two individual entries could be given, or this entry could be given combined together. Next, what is going to happen? Share application money received, share application money transferred, allotment money due recorded. Next, I'm going to receive allotment money. What is the journal entry for receiving allotment money? Bank account data to share allotment account. But here, along with allotment money, I am also receiving in advance your first call money and final call money. How much is that? It is 30 rupees per share for 15,000 shares. So I go ahead to record bank account data, which is nothing but 10 lakh shares into 30 rupees each, plus 15,000 shares into 60 rupees each divided by 1 lakh, because we are recording rupees in lakhs. So that is 9 lakhs. 15,000 into 60 rupees comes up to 9 lakhs. So you record 300 plus 9. 300 rupees goes as a credit to share allotment account, and 9 rupees is credited in your calls in advance account. Calls in advance is credited because it is an amount received in advance. It is a liability. Next, going ahead, I have received the allotment money. The next entry going to be recorded is for my share first call money due. So share first call account data to share capital account. Again, 10 lakh shares into 30 rupees each. And I record 300 rupees as my amount in the journal entry. Because it is in lakhs, I'm just recording 300. And then when I'm going to receive, will I receive for all 10 lakh shares? No, out of the 10 lakh shares, 15,000 shares or one shareholder holding 15,000 shares have already been paid. So now I'm going to receive for 9.85 lakh shares into 30 rupees each, and then 0.15, that is 15,000 shares into 30 rupees each, I take out from my calls in advance and transfer to share first call account, because now it is no more an amount received in advance. The amount for first call has been called and it has been received from the other shareholders. So you are removing that from your advance. Your advance had been previously credited. Now you are debiting calls in advance to the extent of first call money. Please note, this is not 60 rupees. This is only 30 rupees. This we are reversing only to the extent of 30 rupees, only to the extent of first call. Next, what do? I go to call my final call money, share final call account data to share capital, 10 lakh shares into 30 rupees each. And then again, I'm not going to receive for the entire 10 lakh shares. I'm going to receive for 9.85 lakh, 9.85 9,85,000 shares into 30 rupees each. And then from my calls in advance, I'm going to transfer for the 15,000 shares into 30 rupees each. Okay. And then what is happening? I need to pay interest to the person who has paid calls in advance. How much has he paid? He has paid 9 lakh. But for what is the time period that I'm going to pay interest for? The amount has been paid on 1st June. Your first call money is on 1st November. And your final call money is on 1st March. Okay, so now can I say for the first call, I'm going to pay money from interest from 1st June to 1st November. And for the final call, I'm going to pay interest from 1st June to 9th November. Sorry, 1st June to 1st March. So I think that is coming up to 9 months if I'm not wrong, and 5 months. Yes, let us step into the calculations. Here we have 4,50,000, the amount of first call, at 12% per annum. Sir, where do we get this 12% per annum, sir? It is not being stated in the question. So we take the rate as per table F. Table F of the Companies Act gives the maximum rate of interest allowed for calls in advance at 12% and calls in arrears at 10%. So I'm taking 12% because it is calls in advance. So 4,50,000 into 12%, 4.5 lakhs into 12 by 100 into 5 by 12 for the first call. For the second call, it is again 4.5 lakhs into 12 by 100 into 9 by 12, which is giving me an amount of 22,500 and 40,500, total interest being 63,000. Now, please note that we were recording journal entries in terms of lakhs. So 63,000 is equal to 0.63 lakhs. The journal entry being interest on calls in advance account debtor to shareholder account for amount due. And then when you make the payment, shareholder account debtor to bank account, the amount as per the working note. I hope this entry is clear. Now, sir, journal entries for issue of shares, forfeiture of shares, issue of debentures, reissue of shares, all this journal entry wise, it becomes very easy. But what you need to understand is your calculation of the amounts. I hope all the calculations are clear. Let us step into question 6B. Timtim Limited issued 10,008% debentures of nominal value 10 lakh as follows. To sundry persons for cash at 90% of the nominal value rupees 5 lakh. To a vendor for purchase of fixed assets worth rupees 2 lakh, rupees 2,50,000 nominal value. To a banker as a collateral security for a loan of rupees 2 lakh, nominal value rupees 2,50,000. So what have they done? 10 lakh worth of debentures have been issued as 5 lakh to sundry public, 2.5 lakh in exchange of a fixed asset, and 2.5 lakh as a collateral for a loan taken. Let us go ahead to record the journal entries. Now, the first one, we are issuing at 90% of the nominal value. So how much will I receive? Will I receive 5 lakh? No, I will receive 5 lakh into 90%, which is 4,50,000. What is the remaining 50,000? Issue of debentures at a discount. I told you shares cannot be issued at a discount, but debentures can be issued at discount. Chalo, let us record the journal entry. I will say bank account debtor to debenture application account, which is nothing but 5 lakh into 90%, or it could be calculated as 5,000 debentures at rupees 90 each. Okay, 4,50,000 is received, and then when I transfer this debenture application to debentures account or to 8% debentures account, I am supposed to credit 8% debentures with 5 lakh. Therefore, the differencing amount will be recorded as a discount, which will be debited discount on issue of debentures 50,000 rupees, which is nothing but 10% of the issue. Okay, sir. Next, this is the A category where I issued 5 lakh debentures to sundry public. Next, B category, I'm purchasing a fixed asset. So first I record the journal entry to purchase a fixed asset account debtor to vendor account. Instead of using vendor, you could also use creditor or the name of the vendor if given to you, 2 lakh rupees. Now I am giving debentures worth rupees 2,50,000 to this vendor. So vendor account will be debited with 2 lakh. 8% debentures will be credited with 2,50,000. Again, the balance or the difference of 50,000 is nothing but a discount on issue of debentures. Okay, sir. The last category, the third category of debentures which are issued as a loan, I'm first recording the journal entry for the loan taken, bank account debtor to bank loan account 2 lakh being a loan taken of rupees 2 lakh and issuing debentures as a collateral security. See the note. Now, when I issue debentures as a collateral security, there are two methods of accounting. The first method, which is always preferred, they say no entry is made in the books of accounts at the time of making issue of debentures as a collateral security. In the notes to accounts of the balance sheet, the fact that these debentures are being issued as a collateral security is shown under the liability. So we are not going to record the debentures. Why? Because they are not actual debentures. They're given only as a collateral security. If the company does not pay the loan, then these big debentures become actual debentures. So what do? We only state in the notes to accounts under the loan that debentures are given as a collateral security. This is the method of accounting preferred. Your second method of accounting is debenture suspense account debtor to 8% debentures account, but we always prefer this as a method of answering. In case they ask you what are the two methods, you will give both your methods. In case they do not specify anything, please write down this note that we will be mentioning the issue of debentures as a collateral security under the notes to accounts. Coming to the last question, question number 6C, theory question. State the causes for differences between the balance shown as per passbook and cash book. What are the causes for differences? Okay, which subsidiary books are normally used in the business? Both very simple questions. Let us look into the suggested answers. The difference between balance shown by the passbook and cash book may arise on account of the following. You could give them that it is arising due to timing differences, transaction differences, and differences due to errors. And then what are the examples? Checks issued not presented for payment, checks deposited not cleared by the bank, interest allowed by the bank not recorded in cash book, interest and expenses charged by the bank, interest and dividends collected by the bank, direct payments by the bank, direct deposits by a customer, dishonor of a bill discounted with the bank not recorded in cash book, bills collected on behalf of the customer, error committed by the bank, etc. So a lot of transactions could be given, over debit, under debit, any examples you could give. And then the last one, what are the subsidiary books used in a business? We discussed this in one of the questions earlier. So we have cash book, which records all your receipts and payments of cash and bank. We have purchase book, which records credit purchase of goods only. We have purchase returns book, which records goods which have been returned to the suppliers. We have sales book, which records credit sales. The word credit is missing, but it records credit sales of goods dealt by the firm. Sales returns books records returns made by the customers. Okay, we have bills receivable book, bills payable book. Bills receivable book is what? Recorded the bills given to us by various parties. Bills payable book is what? Given to other parties accepted by us. And then we have journal proper, which records all the other transactions which does not come in any of the bills or in any of the books recorded above. Simple question. So with this, we complete our entire discussion on the suggested answers to the mock test paper. I hope you have used this discussion well and you have evaluated your answer script based on whatever discussion we have had. Your exams are less than 2 months away. Stay home, stay safe, keep studying. All the best.
Hello students, welcome to the session. I am CA Danush R. Gangwani, a faculty at Bangalore, Pondicherry and Chennai. I welcome you all to my channel, which I have dedicated to the students of the CA course. This being my first video, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the Almighty for making me capable to do this. I would like to thank my parents, family and friends for their continuous love and support. I thank my mentors for guiding me. Last but not least, my lovely students who have been the main encouraging factor for me being able to do this. In this particular session, I would like to discuss mock test paper 1 for June 2021 exams, CA Foundation Accounts. Like you all know, the exam is for 100 marks. I hope you all have answered the paper assuming that you are in the exam hall. What do I mean by assuming that you are in the exam hall? Keeping a time limit of 3 hours, sitting in an exam environment. If you are yet to attempt the paper, I strongly suggest that you pause watching this video now, make a fair attempt to the paper, and then resume using this video to evaluate your answers. So let us get straight to it.